Good afternoon. Welcome to Lawyers and Libations, episode 25.
Woo! We made it a quarter to 100.
Woo!
Nailed it.
So exciting. Happy to see you. How are you?
I came in hot today. I've had better days. Actually, all of my fish just died in my pond, my koi fish. So about like a month ago or so, it leaks and evaporates and stuff. So you always have to like put the hose on to fill it back up. And I turned it on and it fucking went on all overnight. And so my fish, I had like, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them left and they all fucking died because I'm an asshole. And then today, I think Victoria accidentally left on the hose this morning before she left when she was letting the dogs out. And so I came out and the hose is dumping water. And I have 1 fish out of the 6 that I just fucking had shipped in to Atlanta for my pond. Still making it. So I was like literally, and I don't know if this works for fish, but like sharks, they can only get air if they're like moving, right? Like through the water, they get it through that way. If that's the reason why, if they like, I don't know, you flip them upside down and stuff, they start to sink. So I was basically hand swimming my 1 white koi fish that I had left back and forth in a pot.
It's like fish mouth to mouth.
I would have given him mouth to mouth in a fucking heartbeat. I actually did that to a baby possum one time when I was in 6th grade when he was dying. It was so sad. I know. I'm sorry. So I don't get grossed out by things like that. Anybody want to make out? But I would have given him mouth to mouth if I thought that would actually fucking help. But instead, I just like kept petting him and holding him, being like, come on, buddy, come on.
So was the fish alive when you left to come record today?
He was, barely. And then, yes. Yep, he seems to still be alive currently. Donovan ran out really quickly to go get some more water.
Does fish have a name so we can say a little prayer for little white fish?
You know what? Let's call him Henry.
All right.
Little Henry. Come on, Henry, you little bastard.
Don't break Sarah's heart.
I mean, literally, the biggest one that I had that was beautiful was fucking dead. My fan-tailed goldfish had been like washed out down. They're like currently disintegrating on my patio. I'm fucking homicidal.
Well, the coyote that killed your chickens should be super excited to come tonight for that fish snack.
Fucking goddamn thing. I think it was a possum. Or a raccoon.
I saw when I was driving the other night to pick up Hunter from baseball, 2 big coyotes ran out in front of my car in Buckhead. There are like right around Capital City Club, there are huge coyotes. I mean, one that I remember I was walking, this was probably about like 5 years ago, and I was walking at night to get the hell out of my house. And I had both dogs with me on a leash. It was Charlie and Callie. And we came up and I looked at this fucking thing probably like 100 yards away under a street lamp. And I was like, oh my God, is that a loose German Shepherd? Fucking thing looked like a wolf. It was probably 160 pounds. I'm like, that does not look like a normal coyote. That looks like a coyote that is bred into some sort of super species. And that's not good. No, this is the second time recently I've seen them, and they were gigantic. I was like, for the love of God, may I not run into you guys alone at night, or even with my very wimpy golden retriever. Like, we'd be done.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Max, the 9-pound little bastard that I have, would jump on the back of its neck or something and just like hang on.
Blue and Jack would be toast.
Donezo. Absolutely donezo. Oh, yeah. So I'm glad you did not injure your car running into the coyotes, but you did. I did notice that you have a large scrape on your car, and I would like to know how you, in fact, got that.
Oh, I'm so irritated. So, I drove this Volvo wagon, not until it died, but just till it crossed the 200,000
Crossed the Rainbow Bridge.
And so I finally treated myself to this big old Buckhead Mom, big white Yukon to drive. It's
beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Pretty. I love it. The only injuries it's had thus far are when Ryan has tried to back it into the garage and has ruined both mirrors. So, which is my favorite thing to joke about, that I drive.
Exactly. And I also, your husband doesn't have any rage issues at all. So I'm sure that went swimmingly well.
Totally fine.
Did his fucking head explode?
Well, yeah, particularly when I called him and I was like, it's going to be X number of dollars to fix the mirrors.
Yeah.
But you have to fix them because they've got those built-in cameras.
And the sensors and all the things.
That allow you to reverse park this giant Yukon at NYO baseball.
Yeah, which you definitely need.
So we've been having Georgia's been a little challenging, shockingly, as of late.
No way.
And so Tuesday morning. I'm driving George to school, but I'm in our garage.
George is now 7.
Now 7.
He's the one, for anybody who doesn't remember, he's the one that I joked that Rebecca actually banged Satan to have, because he's cute as can be, a little toe-headed fucking monster, but he will test you.
He is.
That's my politically correct way of saying it.
He is a love bug, but when he's not happy, he's so mean. So I was about to drive him to school on Tuesday morning, and every morning I drive with my cup of coffee in one hand because it's just around the corner. So I don't even put it into a go thing. I've got it in my hand. I've got him in the back seat, and he starts screaming because there are 2 large Gatorades that were the twins from the night before and from the baseball game, and George didn't get one. Yes, he was playing baseball, and I bought $45 worth of snacks.
You bought the whole team shit.
Yeah. I just didn't get George the same Gatorades that I got
his specific special Gatorades.
Special ghost Gatorades.
Well, you clearly love them more.
Well, that's what he said. So he starts screaming, "You don't love me. Clearly, I'm not your favorite child. You're the worst mom ever." And I put it in drive. I turn around with my coffee, and I'm like, I will come back there and kill you.
Yeah.
You are spoiled rotten.
Yeah.
I get you everything that you want. Like,
you'd had enough. You snapped.
And I hit the gas and I smashed into the side of the garage.
Oh
and
my God.
Whole side down. So, and it sounded definitely worse than it looks, but it's not good.
Oh my God.
So George.
What did he do?
I mean, immediately sits down like prim and proper because he also doesn't like to get in trouble.
He's like, she's going to fucking kill me.
He goes, what happened? I go, well, I just hit the side of the garage, George. And he goes, do you think it's bad? I go, oh, it's bad. And so I hop out, and it's just the whole.
Oh, God.
But it's not down. I don't even know if they're metal anymore. Who knows what the doors are made out of? It's not all the way down. Like, I'm wondering with some suction cups and some good.
Oh, yeah. I've seen a thing where you like put like hot water on it, and then you use a plunger or something. I don't know. There's a YouTube video.
I'm going to take it to the GMC dealership.
That's probably a better decision than the hot water and the plunger.
But of course, so then I drop him off at carpool, and he's on that side again. He's like, it's not that bad, Mom. It's not. Can you just not tell Dad? And I go, oh. I'm telling Dad.
Can you not tell Dad?
I'm telling Dad.
Well, so what I'm thinking actually, and we've talked about this before when kids, especially George, was kind of being a dick, that I was going to, he was saying he wanted a new mom. Remember that right before Christmas?
How can I forget?
Yes. I want a new mom. And I'm like, all right, motherfucker, game on. So I was going to show up at your house in a ratty bathrobe and hair and like probably those pink styrofoam rollers. And I would be chiefing a heater on the couch. I might have a fucking martini in my hand. I'm not really sure. And be like, hey, motherfucker, guess who's your new mom for the weekend? Buckle the fuck up.
He would die.
He would die. So I think it's time. That we do that. There's a book, right?
There was. One of my favorite books to read my children called Miss Nelson is Missing, about the super nice, sweet, blonde teacher who everybody loved, and then they started acting bad. And she went missing, and a new mean teacher showed up in a big wig with warts on her nose and was so mean to them.
So this is Miss Rebecca Goes Missing. Yep. Where in the world is Miss Rebecca, and who's this bitch Sarah?
I mean,
I'm fine with that. I fully support it. I have offered to take George for a weekend. So he recently, and again, all things said, I think you're the fucking best mom on the planet, and I think he's challenging as shit, but you know my tolerance level, I don't have maybe a tenth of the patience that you do. So I raise an eyebrow at Adeline, and she goes, I'm sorry, Mommy. Like literally an eyebrow, and everything's fucking done. Like I don't have to get into any of that stuff, primarily because she's a girl, and also she's an only child, and she's 11, right? But she knows, because I will freak out and lose my shit. But, I think that if I had a weekend with George, I feel like maybe I could, I don't know, he might end up in a mental institution after it. So I'm like, I think I could help, or I think it actually could do more damage. I'm not really sure, but I bet you fucking sweet ass, he would be psyched to see you on Sunday night.
He'd definitely be pumped. Well, and what's funny is he's smart and he is sweet. So once he figures out that he can't push your buttons, he'd probably just be a complete love bug.
Because he really doesn't push my buttons at all. Every time I see him, he's crawled up on my lap with a little blanket, snug-a-bug-a-rugged in, and he's cute as shit. But he knows he can't push my buttons. Yeah. So he just locked your au pair out of the house, right? So you have a new au pair.
She's so sweet. She's from Poland. Like, both of us were obviously very nervous about this au pair situation. Since
this is au pair numero tres.
3. If this one doesn't work, I'm freaking out. And so everything was going okay. And then he locked her out of the house the other day. And so I immediately shut off all of the internet. And she's very sweet. But also with that comes a little bit of sensitivity.
She's a little sensitive.
She'd probably never been locked out of a house before. So I was like, look, he's 7. He's going to let you back in. Eventually, I would just go get some puffy Cheetos and sit him on the back porch and eat them. And he's going to be jealous. And he'll eventually
feed the squirrels.
Let you in.
He'll be so mad that he's inside.
And so I shut off the internet for the night, and it worked out great. By the time I got home, they were throwing the football in the backyard. He was showing her his future QB skills.
Did you, in fact, lock him in the bathroom like I would have for the next 3 hours?
He locks himself in the bathroom just to piss me off, so I don't know that
I mean, that's fair. I'm out of...
You'd think that was a treat.
I would have to, so Adeline goes to art therapy that I got her into whenever we ended up separating Justin and I go to my therapist. So I would be needing to bring in professional help of being like, how can I fuck with this kid to make him behave?
Oh, yeah, he's a lot. But he is fun and sweet.
I mean, he is a complete love bug. He's precious.
Him eventually. If he were not attractive, he would definitely have a tougher go.
Oh, I'd be an asshole. But he's like a cute little toe-headed, 7-year-old Chris Farley. It really is what he is.
He'll be Chris Farley in college.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's probably going to deal drugs. I'm sorry.
Oh God, I hope not.
He's got big personality. But so this morning you had a busy morning. Besides all of that, you went and argued an appellate case in front of the full board of the Georgia Workers' Comp Board. How did that go?
It was good. It's nice that we're doing all this stuff back in person again. So it's fun to put on a suit again and go back downtown.
Right? Play dress up and real attorney every once in a while instead of being in the office all the time.
I used to have a wardrobe of 10 or 15 suits I liked. I think now I only have 2 because I haven't bought new suits.
Yeah.
Since, I don't know, 2019.
Since forever. Yeah,
right?
2019.
It went well. I won on most of the issues at the initial level. And so I was appealing one issue. The other side was appealing a lot. I think it went well. It always makes me a little nervous bumping up to the appellate division level at the Workers' Compensation Board because it tends to be pretty employer insurance company friendly.
Well, because they are all appointed by the governor of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Pretty strong business ties there.
But I think I had some good arguments, and I think the law is good.
So what is the process? How long does it go? Just for the people that don't understand how horrendous our system is.
Absolutely. So from the time we request a workers' compensation hearing, it typically takes about 6 to 9 months to officially end up in front of a trial judge.
Or a year.
Right, or a year. Yeah, 6 to 9 months.
It's contested. Yeah, I'm like, that's an expedited track right there.
6 to 9 months would be a quick moving discovery. But so assuming it takes you, let's say 9 months to get to the trial judge, if the parties appeal, typically you're arguing it in 60 to 90 days. And so from today, at this point in time, which is a year and a half from my client's date of accident, we won't have this decision for another 90 days. And it can continue to get appealed. And
then they go to the Superior Court, and then you argue there, and then you wait on their ruling, and then you go to the Court of Appeals, and you ask for a generally discretionary appeal. Yep. And then it's basically another fucking year out.
It can keep going. I've got another case right now that the attorney and I that argued it, we were successful at the Court of Appeals, and now the other side has applied for cert to the Supreme Court. And that guy was injured in 2019 and has never, he got 1 year benefits, but hasn't had anything since then. So it's frustrating, and I'm sure that you will echo the sentiment. The whole point of the workers' compensation system was to give employees quick medical treatment and get them back to work when they have work-related accidents. And it just seems like there's this growing trend to unnecessarily litigate things and keep people from medical treatment, which then keeps them out of work.
Well, and so the longer that they don't get medical treatment, the longer they're out of work and the less they have a chance of fully recovering and get back to their pre-injury job. But I have seen, which makes me fucking insane, a new trend with some of the bigger firms that are actually the bigger defense firms, right, where they are not providing the panel of physicians, which you need to provide fucking immediately to the injured worker after a work-related accident. They are waiting and delaying 21 days to give them the panel saying, we get to investigate first. So you know what? I'll fix the system for you. Let's get rid of the grand bargain and go right back to suing in fucking tort. Now you don't have those protections anymore. If you are going to continue to erode the system the way that it was initially supposed to work, much like they did in Florida, where they threw out the entire workers' comp system because they reduced their attorneys' fees to so little that eventually no attorneys could make a living helping injured workers, right? So then they can't get adequate representation. Georgia, we try to keep it within the lines. I mean, we've got the Chairman's Advisory Committee that you serve on the legislative committee to help work with revising certain laws or adding in certain laws. But generally speaking, it continues. Every single fucking thing that gets passed is in the employer-insurer's favor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think it definitely had a very negative impact on the system. And I think also an initial goal of the system was for people for not to be litigious and people not to need attorneys.
Right.
Now, if you're an injured worker and you don't have an attorney, you are working at such a
You're
disadvantage.
Screwed. Yeah.
Because the insurance companies have the attorneys, they have the manpower, they have the money. And even when you have an attorney like us, we'll fight hard and do our research and argue the law, but we don't have the money and unlimited resources that insurance companies have.
And I think a lot of injured workers don't understand that the system is set up very pro-employer insurer friendly, right? Like I think only one judge has represented an injured worker. Is it one or two? One.
You're probably about right.
Yes, right?
Maybe two.
Maybe two out of like 8 or 10.
Maybe 2.5. I think
right. And then our full board are again all appointed by the governor, and they try to be fair, but is what it is. So it is an uphill battle. So speaking of uphill battles and fighting in the court system and things, who do we have joining us today?
We have two excellent guests today. So one is Ken Hodges, who is one of our Court of Appeals judges.
Love Judge Hodges. He's fantastic.
We met him on a golf course one time, if I remember correctly. Or did you already know him?
I think that we did.
Met him on the golf course.
He and I might have already known each other through some stuff, but it might have been a golf course. I don't know. Golf brings people together.
It does. I agree. And then we have his friend JTom, who is a criminal defense attorney here, but also does a lot of other cool things like authoring and bar ownership.
And instructing at Western Carolina. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good group. So we are going to take a quick break. I'm very much after the dead fish, scenario about 45 minutes ago, looking forward to whatever strong beverage they may be bringing us because it's already been a fucking day. So we will be back in just a few minutes with Judge Hodges.
And JTom. Welcome back to Lawyers and Libations, episode 25. We are so happy to have our guest now. We have JTom to my left, and we have Judge Hodges to my right.
Welcome. Thank you for coming to visit with us. So JTom is actually the owner of the Lazy Hiker in Silva and Franklin, which is a brewery, right? So that's the fun fact. Yes, and you have brought us, which I'm super excited about. Tell us what you brought.
So the Lazy Hiker started in Franklin. As you know, that was the first brewery in Macon County. We took over and purchased the Town Hall fire station.
Okay.
So our party room, coincidentally, is a room where they voted to allow alcohol sales.
Well done, yeah. Well, I lived in Macon County when we did not allow alcohol sales. It was brown bag only. That's where I grew up.
So our Ken Murphy was his brainchild. He was general counsel here at Lithonia Lighting, and he retired and moved to Franklin. He called me and said, "JTom, let's open up a brewery." So, we drank a lot of beer in college, but that doesn't mean we know how to make it.
Right.
And he said, "Well, we'll build it. They'll come, and we'll just get the best brewmaster in the country." And that's what we did.
See, that sounds like a good plan. That sounds pretty simple.
I wish it was that simple. It took us 18 months to renovate the place. But Ken and the other two managing partners really did a great job getting us open. And we have 5 beers that we can and send out as far as Gainesville, Georgia, Augusta, Athens, and Charlotte. And then we have 5 more beers that are seasonal, like our Oktoberfest, which we pop open in September and usually out by mid-October. So what I brought today was 4 of our what we call our year-round beers that we do can. And I've got a cheat sheet that our brewmaster helped prepare for me.
Perfect. I love that.
So, and we've got 4 sample trays, so if we're ready.
Yeah, we've got flights. Let's do it.
it.
So this is the Wesser Evil Porter.
Yeah, that is.
I do love a porter. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, so we can do that.
Is there a
here.
specific order that they're supposed to go in?
Take,
Okay.
If we,
So do one at a
Yeah,
time?
we can wait.
one
Okay,
at a time.
perfect. Okay.
Also, and they also go from alcohol content with it.
Okay. This looks delicious. I'm very excited.
So what is our first one?
Our first one, Rebecca, is Trailmate. And it is our go-to beer. It is more of the traditional beer going back to the 1950s. It's a lager. It's got 4.7% alcohol. And it is one that, you know, when Ken and I get off the trail, this is what we typically drink, is the Trailmate.
All right, let's try it.
Cheers.
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 Thank you for this. Couldn't love this more. This is wonderful.
So, operating a brewery after practicing law is a great way to end a career.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's fair.
Because as lawyers, we make people unhappy.
Right.
Somebody's going to be unhappy.
Generally speaking, yes.
And when you serve beer, everybody's happy.
Yeah, everybody is happy.
This is delicious.
That's
I
fair.
can
I-
imagine drinking this after.
Yeah, I could, absolutely. My dad opened a barbecue restaurant, live music bar in Sarasota, Florida called Stottlemyre Smokehouse after he did law for a while and then owned a convenience store at like 73. He's like, I think I'm going to open a restaurant. I'm like, what are you thinking?
73?
Yeah.
Sarah? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it turned out to be, now it's like voted #1 best barbecue in Sarasota. So, I mean, I mean, people love barbecue, people love beer. So you guys had great ideas.
Well, speaking of barbecue in North Carolina, do y'all think North Carolina barbecue or Georgia barbecue is better?
See, Ken and I grew up in Albany, and we grew up with Georgia barbecue, which is ketchup-based.
Yeah.
It's taken me a while to get used to the Carolina vinegar-based and mustard-based barbecue.
I like the ketchup base too, and I'm a North Carolina girl. Yeah, I like
Definitely.
sweet, like what is it, brown sugar, like that type of thing. That kind of barbecue, delicious.
Bring me all the vinegar, but
I mean, I'll eat the vinegar. Trust me.
vinegar. I
Yeah.
don't love the mustard in South Carolina.
You know.
I'll eat it, but
Okay, so tell me really quickly about this beer right here.
This is, as I said, our Trailmate, and it's 20 IBU. IBU is an International Bitter Unit,
Mm-hmm.
so it is less hoppy, and as we go up the scale, we'll have more hops.
Okay.
You know, the younger generation really likes hoppy beer, and I'm more into
I'm
what we're
old.
drinking now.
Yeah.
You know, our Trailmate is less hoppy.
I'm with you on that. I always ask for when I go to a restaurant, I'm like, can I get your most domestic, crappy, watered down, shitty beer that you have? I would like that. Thank you. I'm definitely less
You know,
hoppy.
North Carolina was way ahead of Georgia with craft beer
Mm-hmm.
because Georgia wouldn't allow it. The Libations for Miller, which is where Ken and I grew up in Albany, and Budweiser up in Rome.
They did not want the competition.
They did not want craft brew.
Yeah.
So when we opened up the Lacey Hiker in Franklin, we're only 15 miles north of the border, and you would go there and see all these cars from Georgia. Because
coming to get good beer.
They wanted to get the craft beer.
I'm sure.
That's delicious.
It is
this.
delicious. While we're going on to the second one, Judge Hodges, I would like to know how you guys met.
Well, we were both from Albany, but JTom and I are 10 years apart, so we were never in school together, didn't know each other growing up. I was elected district attorney in Albany in 96 and took office in January of 97, and JTom was already the elected district attorney in DeKalb County, Stone Mountain. And we have quarterly meetings, and so I met him at the quarterly meetings and knew him, but we really got to know each other later when we tried a case together.
And what case was that?
That was the case of the state of Georgia versus Sidney Dorsey. Sidney Dorsey was the elected sheriff of DeKalb County who lost office in 90 what?
He lost office in 2000 now.
Lost office in 2000, and before Derwin Brown, his successor in office, took over, Sidney Dorsey, along with several other men, 3 other men, had him assassinated.
What?
Yeah, he was assassinated. And the thought,
Doorstep.
you're right,
Welcome to Georgia.
right on his anniversary.
Oh, my God.
With standing there with the flowers for his wife, and she was at the door and saw everything. I didn't see him actually get shot, but was coming to the door and saw him shortly thereafter. So It took, and I'll let JTom tell a little bit more about the case because he lived it, but it took about a year for them to develop who the suspects were and to bring the case. And the case against the two of the shooters was tried in DeKalb County in state court and actually got a not guilty verdict. Thankfully, the feds picked it up and prosecuted federally, and they were convicted federally. But the defense filed a motion for a change of venue, and it moved to Albany.
Ooh.
And JTom called me up and asked me for help.
Ended up being co-counsel, and it was my hometown.
Right.
So I've been in DeKalb County all my career, so it really didn't matter. But Kim helped me finish writing a book, which we hope to get published this summer, called A Rainy Night in Georgia, and actually tracked down the widow of Tony Joe White, who wrote A Rainy Night in Georgia and got permission to use that title.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's cool. So called Ken and said, hey, I just got this change of venue notice. Can you help us find a place to live? And I called him back and said, been thinking about it. Would you help us pick a jury? Called him back a little later. I've been thinking about it. You want to take some witnesses? And then finally I said, Ken, really been thinking about, would you do the opening argument? Because, Ken had, even though he's a judge now, he has a tremendous reputation as a trial lawyer. He can argue the horns off the devil.
Right.
So I knew he would.
That's a damn good compliment, I would say.
So I knew not only were we on Ken's home turf, but having him in the courtroom and helping us and made a big difference. So we had a good team when we went down there. It was a grueling process. As Ken said, we lost the first trial. And what Ken failed to mention was the one who turned state's evidence. I'm sitting there interviewing, and I asked him once, how'd you get Mr. Brown's address? He said, well, I went to the library, and the librarian showed us how to find his address in the books, and that's how we got your address. And I'm looking at him, and I said,
Excuse me?
I said, why'd you need my address? It's because we were going to kill you next.
No.
I said, oh, really?
Yeah, okay.
But then JTom also said, well, did you look in the phone book? Because JTom had his name in the phone book back then.
You're like, that would be a lot easier than having to go to the library there, smart ass. Yeah.
And so what year was that?
What you tried it in 2002?
Okay.
Yeah.
What year was the assassination?
December 15th, 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
And
grief.
I'm wondering, just like talking about trying to figure out who the suspects were. Back then, were there the number of video cameras that there are now where it's a lot easier to track that stuff down?
No, we couldn't triangulate the cell phone at that time.
Wow.
Well, all that's changed.
I think I had a Razor Edge during 2000, like one of those little flip phone things.
I don't think I had anything.
I don't think anybody could find you. You had a pager.
No, I had the zip up one that I kept in my car that I could only use in case of emergency for $5 a minute or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, certainly weren't texting anybody.
Good grief. So
one of the accomplices committed another crime, and in order to get out of that, he flipped and state's evidence on
fucking
everyone.
idiot. Like, you literally kill a sheriff and then you're going to go out and do it again?
Well, he killed the sheriff-elect while he was sheriff so that there would be a special election called, and he thought he could win back in as sheriff.
Wow.
Is he in jail now?
Yes.
Oh, that's
he will
a
die.
shame. I feel very sorry for him.
He is.
Hopefully he's enjoying his time as a ex-police officer in jail. I'm sure that's a light ride for him.
Yeah.
Get what you get, though.
But another quick little funny story on the jury selection that he asked me to do. So I'm doing jury selection, and we always ask, do you know anyone? And one of the ladies in the front raised her hand, and she said, I know Mr. Morgan. And I said, well, how do you know Mr. Morgan? She said, we dated back in high school. And so I leaned down and I said, do I keep asking her questions? Do we keep her?
Yeah, we keep her.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But we kept her.
I'm like, you keep her. Be like, did you guys marry? No, you probably dislike him. We're going to go ahead and keep that. Thank you. I love that. Okay, what do we have for your second beer so we can get onto that?
Is Trail Candy. And without being gender specific, it's really the beer that a lot of women order.
Okay.
It's very popular with our.
I was about to say, I really like it, and now you throw me on the
Well,
bus like
sorry,
that.
Judge Hodges.
But I do like it.
We knew something was going to come out on the show at some point.
There's nothing wrong with being a little feminine.
No.
You're good.
It's lovely. Means more women will like you.
Very, very popular beer.
Perfect. There's that. There we go.
So can you buy the Lazy Hiker beers here in Atlanta at any of the grocery
We
stores?
haven't gotten rights to distribute here.
Okay.
We come close.
Oh, that's mine, JK.
But we're really Athens, Augusta, Northeast Georgia. But our alcohol laws have to be even screwier than your worker comp laws. It's because you got to go through distributors.
I will cheers you. Cheersing.
Cheers.
Lovely.
So to get our beer into Georgia was a headache, and we're limited to where we can. All right, so this is trail candy, 4.7% alcohol.
Oh, I like this one.
And it's a little more tart. And so it's the same amount of hops as a trail mate.
That's good.
That's very good.
Yeah.
It does seem a little hoppier, though. Even if it's the same amount.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Be a good springtime beer. I approve.
Do you guys make any like sours yet? I've just recently,
sours.
I recently just
sour.
tried a sour and was like, that's actually delicious.
On a hot day, it is.
Yeah, it's good, right? So you all met that way.
Right.
And then, Judge Hodges, where did you go after that trial? What was
Well,
your
I was
path?
still the DA in Albany for, if it was tried in, I was elected in, so that was at the beginning of my second term. I think I just faced re-election, and I did 3 terms in Albany, left in 2008. Then I moved up to Atlanta, was in a private firm, transactional healthcare firm, and realized as a litigator I didn't like
You
being a
did not
transactional
know.
lawyer.
That's very boring.
It was, and so I had an occasion to be in Thurbert Baker's office one day, who was our sitting attorney general, and he told me that he was going to run for governor, and but that was before he had announced. And I said, "Wow, that's great," and he said, "I want you to run for attorney general," and I said, And I went home that night and I told my wife, who was pregnant at the time, and we had just moved up there, that that's what General Baker had suggested that I do. And she looked at me and said, "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" I go, no.
Absolutely not. And she's like, mm-hmm.
And so I ran. And,
I'm like, mm-hmm.
So that was a fun race, an interesting race. It was the year that the Republicans swept Georgia. But I am proud that I got the most number of votes of any Democrat statewide.
Well done.
Congratulations.
Still
Hard to
second
do
place.
in Georgia.
Yeah, second place. And then I moved back into a litigation firm that morphed into a national firm, and I didn't like that, and so I went on my own for 3 years before I ran for the job that I have currently.
And that is?
Court of Appeals of the state of Georgia. Yeah.
And so you ran to get on the Court of
ran.
Appeals. Okay.
Yeah, there are 2 ways to get on the court. You can either, if it's a vacancy, the governor will appoint, and then you have to stand for re-election at the next election, or if it's a seat that becomes open at the end of the term and becomes vacated that way, then it's an open seat and you can run. John Ellington, who was on our Supreme Court and had been on the Court of Appeals for about 20 years, decided to run for an open seat on the Supreme Court. And there was one other person that had announced running for John's seat when I just talked it over again with my wife, and she said, "Again, you're considering this, aren't you?"
No.
Well, let's talk this through. And I decided it was the way for me to get back into public service, and so we jumped in that race and we prevailed.
And how long have you been on the court?
5.5 years. In fact, I'm on the ballot right now. I'm unopposed.
Are you? Lovely.
But early voting has already started.
Yes.
And I think we got 2 more weeks of that, and then election day. But it's so important for your listeners to go vote for judges, because judges are important. I'm not hyping myself because I'm unopposed, but there are 2 opposed races. I can't comment on them because I'm not allowed to under the canons, but I would urge your listeners to learn about those 2 races and find out who the best person to vote is, and vote. It's down ballot. It's during the partisan primary, so it doesn't matter whether you pull a Republican primary ballot or a Democratic primary ballot. All the judges who are nonpartisan will be at the bottom of that ballot, and it'll say who they are and whether they're the incumbent or not. But you can already get sample ballots, so you can look and see who's running, and then you can learn about them. I always advise non-lawyers to talk to lawyers about who might be a good judge, because you need good judges. You need people who are going to call the balls and strikes fairly for everyone, and not just do it, but for their friends or for one side or the other.
I was having this conversation actually this morning where a friend of mine was saying that they never really go in and vote for judges, and they said, well, aren't they kind of bound by precedent? And I was like, I don't know if you've read anything about the Supreme Court that's gone on recently, but precedent is a really cute word which means absolutely nothing at this point. Right. I said, so what they do is they bring all of their history and all of their biases and all of their ties and ties to lobbyists and all of those things to the judge, to their position, right? And to make sure, you want to make sure that you have a damn fair judge, because if not, you are you don't have a chance.
Well, they control your life, literally, your property, literally, your marriage, your children, your custody. I mean, so many important things.
They have more control over your life and effect on your individual life than anybody else that you're voting for, sincerely.
100%.
You know.
And ladies, where y'all from, it's a partisan race. It's ridiculous. I vote now in North Carolina, and when I went in, I go, what's this Republican Democrat judge bit? But you got to declare, and I'm going, judges are supposed to be fair to both sides.
Yeah.
North Carolina is definitely crazy for the judge system.
Well, yeah, and especially when you get into like Appalachian, North Carolina, you start to figure out some really weird stuff that goes on.
Well, you need to come back and practice it.
I did, I've had friends and family who have said, will you please move back? And I'm like, oh, no.
You can wave in and also just practice it both.
I
We're
could.
waving now, yeah.
Did you?
No, I had to take the ethics session because when I was growing up, lawyers didn't have ethics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing they were tested on.
Well, now he
we'll put
teaches
it that
it.
way. Yes.
Yeah, I'm teaching.
Right. So speaking of that, you do teach up there at Western Carolina,
I
right?
teach at Western Carolina University. Now, that is a great swan song for a legal career, is to go back. I mean, Ken and I are diehard public servants.
Right.
And
I couldn't love that more.
And teaching, especially undergrad, I teach criminal law, criminal procedure, and ethics. And I tell them stories about Atlanta, and they look at me like, what university are you from? Because, 50%, we got 8,000 students, but most of them grew up within 50 miles.
Right.
So they're kids who, that's all they know is the Western North Carolina mountains. And it's amazing to me how many of them have never even been to Atlanta.
Right. Growing up in Highlands, I used to, I'm glad you teach all of the things that I violated whenever I was growing up there, because I think I got my first fake ID at 14 in Sarasota, Florida, because I was same height, same build, everything is now, so I could pass as 21. Maybe. And so thank you. God, I love you for that. Thank you. But there was a bar called Bailey's that was down in Cullowhee that I used to go into all the time with a fake ID with older kids. And then, so I was probably 15, 16. And then there was another place right across South Carolina line called Burles. Had you ever heard of Burles? It was a shack in the middle of, like, you just come over a hill and there's this shack, and it would be an entire biker gang there. I mean, anyway, they had live music on Tuesday nights during the summer, so it was a disaster. But
speaking of bikers, we have a big biker crowd because they ride the Tail of the Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Which is 111 switchbacks in 16 miles.
Yeah.
And so after they do that, they pride themselves and come celebrate.
Yeah,
They celebrate with your beer.
as they should.
And we get the Appalachian Trail hikers because, as you know, the AT goes across winding Map, and what we do, we go pick the kids up who are hiking. They stay at the No-Tail Motel in Franklin,
Right.
and then come up and drink our beer, and we give them dinner. And we
Oh,
give
God,
them
they love you for that.
we also give them hats and shirts and say, okay, we're giving you this if you'll take pictures and post it on social media as you're hiking up the trail. So we got lazy hiker hats. People at the very end at Acadia National Park.
What do your hats look like? I want to see. Yeah, I'm like, we like hats. I wear baseball hats all the time.
And of course, with the U2, I got Carolina Blue.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those. So cute.
So cute.
And I've got a great
I love
idea.
these.
Do you think that if someone who's listening to this podcast walks into the Lazy Hiker and say that they heard you on Lawyers and Libations, that the Lazy Hiker would give them their first beer for free?
JTom will.
There you go.
Well done, Judge Hodges.
speak
No
for the
pressure
other
at all.
spot.
Yeah, none at all to
I
put you
love
on the spot.
this.
This is cute as can be. Thank you so much. I'm going to try and keep my preteen daughter from stealing it. She continues to raid all of my hat areas. But so you also wrote a book called Ignorance is No Defense, A Teenager's Guide to Georgia Law, as far as teenagers breaking the law. So kind of before we started, we were talking about using a forgery of a fake ID could actually be a felony.
In North Carolina and Florida.
That's the only places I used it was North Carolina and Florida.
I think the statute of limitations is passed.
Okay, good. I think I'm all right now. But
So what advice do you have? Obviously we're raising teenagers or soon to be teenagers. What are some good tips for us as we're navigating
What happened was after I left the DA's office, accidentally, I started representing a lot of teenagers because my kids were teenagers, one in college, one just started college, and one in high school. And I realized two things, Rebecca. One is that our kids don't know the laws. And the Georgia laws are draconian toward teenagers. And second is the only people more ignorant than kids are their parents. Mm-hmm. So we put together this book, and I've learned something about publishing. So I went to Westlaw and I went to Lexis, and I said, we're not interested in this. Nobody's going to buy it. And so we self-published it, and it's now the #1 self-published book in the country. We sold over 63,000.
Wow, that is awesome.
That's phenomenal.
So you did one for Georgia and one for North Carolina?
North Carolina is for college students.
Okay, oh good.
But the one that's really done well is the Georgia one, is because it targets teenagers
Okay.
and their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice is, and that's why I brought you all copies, because I know you've got teenagers and soon-to-be teenagers, is that parents have told me what they do is they tell their kid to read a chapter, then the parent reads a chapter, and then they discuss it without any judgment, without any, this is what you should do or this is what you shouldn't do. Well, let's just see what the law is and see what the consequences are. And then you empower your child. I know that's a cliche, but empower your child to make the right decision. And they will, once you have the discussion around the dinner table, say, look, hey, did you know this is a felony?
Except for George. He'll totally
not my
ignore you,
7-year-old,
that
but
little
my
bastard.
soon-to-be 12-year-old son will go.
100%.
He will be obsessed with it.
Yeah, I mean, just reading on the back, did you know that you can be charged with statutory rape regardless of whether you are a girl or a boy? So, I mean, I was 15 and had a 19-year-old boyfriend, or 16 and had a 20-year-old boyfriend. I mean, again, I'm from the Appalachian Mountains. We do things a little differently up there.
But here's what's different. It's after I moved to North Carolina, is that y'all have the Romeo and Juliet exception.
Yeah.
So we don't have it in Georgia.
We did. That's where you go get married? Or no, you have a baby?
No,
what is it?
As long as there's not more than 4 years difference.
Then it's okay.
Thank God.
And in Georgia, thanks to the Georgia Supreme Court, they made it a misdemeanor. Our legislature made it a felony for a 16-year-old to have sex with a 15-year-old.
That's absurd. I'm sorry. I mean, I want everybody to wait as long as they can, especially my child. But at the same time, that's batty.
I tell you, it's draconian, and it even gets more.
It gets worse?
You're in more trouble in Georgia for having oral sex with a 16 and 15-year-old than you are having vaginal intercourse.
What?
Because it's a 7 deadly sin. And I was talking to some kids last week, and one of them
Oh, my
raised his hand and
goodness.
said,
Georgia.
"Well, Professor Morgan, which one will get you pregnant? Stupid."
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
write these laws.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I'm just explaining them. So my mom also used to let me, I got pulled over when I was 15 because I used to take the car out up in Highlands all the time. And so I would take her car and I would drive around in between like Highlands and my house out in Scaly and like just, it's just what you did. I was like 14, 15 years old, no license. Finally, one of the cops who I was friends with pulled me over because I pulled up at the rec park. And he was like, "You're not 16. Stop driving around." So I'm assuming the parent can get in pretty big damn trouble if you're letting your kid knowingly take out the car, which Adeline, not a
Civil
chance in having.
liability
Yeah.
Judge Hodges will tell you it's tremendous if you allow that. But it happens where we live in the mountains.
It
Driving
does.
all the time because it's
You gotta get to work. You gotta get
it's the only
somewhere.
way
Yeah.
you can get to work.
Right.
It's the only way you can get to school.
Right.
And
You
might
can't
be
walk.
able-
It's too far apart.
What
Yeah.
is-
It's a different.
Tough to walk.
And you
Yeah,
might be
they
able to
are.
bootstrap in criminal prosecution, which is what they just did somewhere up north, where the parents let the kid take the gun to school and they were prosecuted for murder and convicted.
That was Michigan.
That's right.
We recently discussed it on the podcast.
We
yeah. I mean,
did
it's-
discuss that. That was outrageous, though. They bought him the gun. They took him to the shooting range. They didn't put it up. And then
school warned them.
The school
that
brought him in. They were like, well,
he was acting weird that day.
yeah, they're like, we found all these bullet drawings and stuff. And the parents were like, I'm sorry, we have to go to work. And they're like, we suggest you take him out of school. They said no, didn't say, oh, yeah, we just bought him a gun and took him to the shooting range 2 days ago. They left, and he killed 4 students and wounded 6 others. I hope those parents rot in hell. 100%. What's the civil liability for? Another thing that we used to do, and I do still see this trend in parents, sometimes parents of high school students, where they let the high school students drink at home if they have a party or something, but nobody can drive. civil liability. What do you think? Some of that stuff. Have you seen any of those cases?
I mean, usually the civil liability comes. I mean, there's got to be an injury,
right?
And if they stay at home, I mean, if they get alcohol poisoning or something like that, certainly they would.
You're done. Yeah. Criminal liability.
Yeah, so criminal liability.
I'm like,
this is a little known fact that when I talk to parents in Georgia, it's one of the few things we do right, is that if you want to teach your teenager how to consume alcohol responsibly, you can do it in your home with your kid. You cannot give it to anybody else's kid. That triggers a criminal and civil liability, and you certainly cannot let your kid go out and get in the car.
Oh, dear God, no.
But, just think about, if you've got an 18-year-old senior in high school who's about to go out to college, you think, oh my gosh, let me show you the difference between a bourbon and a glass of wine.
Oh, yeah.
When you go off, let's stick with the wine and beer until you turn.
Let's not take fireball shots all night.
I mean,
Rebecca's like, I feel personally attacked right now.
So my husband's family is from Wisconsin, which is pretty loosey-goosey with drinking. And one of my aunts up there always says that it's the same. They're like, it's fine if you drink if you're under 21 as long as your parents are around. But it does. And I laughed it off. I was like, that's absurd. But it totally makes sense. I would much rather my children learn how to drink in a controlled environment and then go to college instead of go to college and be like, hell yeah,
no,
bring on the fireball,
absolutely
bring on
not.
The blue martini,
Everclear, PJ Punch, I'd die. All over Europe, kids will go out to dinner, whether or not they're in high school or whatever, and they will have glasses of wine with their parents. And I think it really does teach responsibility. I mean, I had. I was talking to my dad about this the other day because he was saying something about new trends in kids, and now he's very paying attention to all of that because he has a granddaughter. And so he's like, have you been reading this about what's going on and like children and alcohol and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, Dad, you do realize that it was my dad's 50th birthday. So I was like 15 and he had a bartender at his house. And I swear to God, fortunately, I woke up the next morning in my brother's T-shirt and boxers with my older brother's 3 years older than me, sleeping next to me to make sure I didn't die from alcohol poison. He was like, I had to change your clothes 3 times. He was like, you were adequate. I was taking tequila shots, right? Like as a 15-year-old with the bartender, like an idiot. But I didn't do that at a party that was somewhere else, fortunately, where I have no recollection of what happened. My older brother stayed there and was like, good grief, Sarah. And it was a very good learning lesson for me.
Thank you, Seth, for keeping Sarah safe.
Yes, he did. He was a love bug. So tell us this next
So
beer.
this is our, again, a traditional American, this is our Slack Pack. If you notice, all the names of our beers have something to do with hiking the mountains. This has 55 IBU, which means it's a higher, hoppier beer, 6% alcohol. And again, this is one of our go-to beers that customers come in and year-round.
The majority of my guy friends would like this. They're all into the hoppy stuff. I like the less hoppy.
Too.
Yeah. Ryan would love that. Yeah,
this is delicious as well.
Well, y'all need to come up and do a show from the brewery.
I think we probably
should.
I think
even go for a little hike.
Ugh. I mean, we could go for a hike. I grew up hiking, lots of hiking. We used to do Mount Mitchell every single year, but we did it downhill, not uphill. But it's way harder on your knees downhill, much easier on your lungs, thank God. But it's like a 7-hour hike. You did LeConte, right? Or what? No, what is
LeConte? Yep, in the Smokies.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's beautiful, and we know. I don't know if y'all have ever been, but it's the highest lodge east of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
There's no power, so you hike to the top. And it's all just like little lanterns, and they have llamas that bring all the food up, and they make you this wonderful dinner. And you have wine for 1 hour. For an extra $10, you can drink wine for 1 hour. So my parents and my husband and I are just chugging wine on the backboard.
Can you? What? I mean, we need more than wine after that. That was straight uphill and horrendous. No,
my hiking boots, the bottom blew out on both of them.
Oh,
unfortunately, my husband brings duct tape everywhere he goes. I don't know if he's a murderer prepared. But he
prepared for murder at any moment.
So he may need to murder me anytime. But so he duct taped my boots on. It was pouring down rain. I mean, it was wild. There are bears everywhere. I mean,
And
it's
this was what mountain?
Mount LeConte. It's in the Smokies, so you stay in Gatlinburg the night beforehand.
Okay.
We went out and had a big night.
I mean, it is a hell of a climb. It is. I mean, it would be like Mount Mitchell going up. I mean, Mount Mitchell's part of the Appalachian Trail right in that area.
We were summiting, and then you'd get to the top of your hill, and it would go back down and back up for like 7 or 8 miles.
4,200 feet up. My closest neighbor is a mile away. Mailbox is 2 miles away, and some of the best hiking is just.
See, but that's fantastic. Yeah, of course.
We walked out the front door.
Now, have either of ever? God, can we get it out? Have either of you ever hiked the whole Appalachian Trail? I kind of want to.
I kind of want to too.
The girls.
1,000 miles.
Yeah, I know it's really far. You go in. I would go in the summer. It is. But I've been looking at it forever. So when my brother did a portion for like, I don't know, 2 weeks or 21 days or something. And he went with a bunch of guy friends, and I'm fiercely competitive. And so I was like, I can do that. Well, let me get a group of girls together. And right about then, there were 2 female hikers that got raped and murdered on the trail. And I was like, nope, not doing it.
Because there were 2 women who were in the act of love. And the guy came across on them, and he tried to use the lesbian set me off triggered emotion defense.
Oh, he just got so mad he couldn't take it.
That's exactly right.
Oh my God.
So he's spending 2 life sentences.
Okay.
Fucking
What
bastard.
state was he in where that happened?
I think that wasn't it North Carolina? Yeah, it was North Carolina.
Far from us.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if we do it, we.
Well, I've been training with Vadim now,
you're
so
good.
yeah, I'm ready. I train with a Russian fighter. He's amazing.
The girls.
MMA.
Well, it's more like what is it? What is it?
Russian spy program
Yeah. So it's
training.
like, have you seen the movie? What's that blonde movie? Come on, with
Atomic Blonde?
Yeah, Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron. Okay, well, you need to because she's stunning in that movie. But she's a spy. Yeah, speaking of there is a hot lesbian scene, which I oddly enough got stuck watching it on the plane, and it's shocking to me how Delta allows a lot of really, really racy scenes on airplanes, right? And so all of a sudden, you're watching this very hot lesbian scene on your thing, and you turn around and look behind you, and like
The kids are watching.
6 rows back of men are all like, what are they? What channel is that? I'm like, God, this is
they're
embarrassing.
probably like, and it's a woman watching it.
And
too.
and they're like
We're gonna
heads
go see who that
exploding
is.
all over the place. But no, so I've been training to fight and kill people. That's it helps me get out my rage from driving in Atlanta. But my house in North Carolina is on 3 sides of national forests, surrounded by. So I love it. We've got all the hiking trails around there. It's just my problem with hiking now with my ACL injury is it goes up and down a lot. And
Yep.
I'd like to save my knee for skiing. But you have a world record of some sort, don't you?
Who brought that up?
I don't know. I'm just curious. I may have done my research. What kind of world
Googled
record
you.
are you holding? Good sir.
Students are protesting today. When I was in college, we were doing something else.
Yes.
If you go back far enough, the Guinness Book of World Records has the biggest streak in the country.
Full nude.
Oh, of course,
Where were you?
Athens.
Good grief. How many people?
1,267 males and females.
Oh, I love a good streak.
It's a good streak.
How far'd you go?
Oh,
We went all the way.
Were you there?
You've been dying to use that, haven't you?
that was a plant. So Dale Russell, who just retired from Channel 5, he was one of the instigators. I was a student body president.
Right.
So we had to have something that, we could make the record books.
And you were like, you know what? Easiest thing. Let's all just get naked and run around.
We went dorm to dorm, sorority.
To more sorority.
A few fraternities.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. We said, let's all gather. I mean, we didn't have social media.
Right.
So it was word of mouth.
Also, not as many pictures.
People, thank goodness, people were, though mine didn't make the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Was that by a competitor when running for the race? Did you know he was naked running around Athens?
Planes, it was crazy.
Oh my God, I love that. Congratulations.
So when you were going door to door, were you going door to door naked? Like,
No, not
or did you like?
that.
Okay, I
No,
was
to
like, oh,
spread
God.
the news.
It's a
This is
very
the
long-
time. Yeah.
Thursday night, we said, hey, we're all gathering at this point. We're going to drop our clothes off, have friends meet you at the inn. Now, here's the interesting. Can you imagine that today? We would arrest every kid.
Every kid.
I went to the president of the university, President Davison, and I said, President Davison, I said, there may be something on campus Thursday night. He said, JTom, I've heard about it. I said, well, are we going to need to get bail money? He said, you promise me no one gets hurt, and I'll promise you no one gets arrested.
See, perfect.
And that's exactly the way.
But that's the way that it should be.
And then we went to quarter of beer Thursday night. So it was a great day. With our clothes on.
Yeah, well, I was going to say we're just sitting there naked on the stool. You might catch something.
We'll pour our last beer.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
I've
for
got
our
the
last
other drink
beer.
for y'all.
Oh, yes. Thank goodness. The dead fish set me off first thing today.
I know, we got to get that right.
Thank
All
you.
right in the world.
So, someone else who is known to streak is one of the girls that's sitting here. And P.S., it's not me.
Rebecca.
So, Rebecca always comes off as the quieter, shyer. I think somebody said nicer one the other day. And I was like, this is bullshit. Okay, because I am super nice. She may be more quiet and cuss less than me. But she is a born and bred streaker.
I do love a good streak, but
I do.
to your point, JTom, before cell phones, it was a lot easier to do fun stuff like that. So my two favorite streakings is in college, pre-cell phones.
And where were you?
I guess we had the cell phones.
It was flip phones. Nobody was recording
No, I
anything.
don't think they had video.
No.
So we streaked all of North Street, which is the street that I lived on from one end
That's
to the other.
far. P.S.
far.
Where were you
Yeah.
from?
UNC Chapel Hill.
Both of us went to Carolina.
Same year. We didn't know each other. Made out with the same bartender, but didn't
We did.
know each other.
Same night or different night?
Different
It
night.
could go. Who knows?
Probably the same night, actually. I don't know. He got around.
So my students tell me that the students at Chapel Hill drink scotch. The students where I teach at Western drink beer, and the students at App State smoke weed.
That's all true.
No.
Okay.
I drank scotch, scotch on the rocks that was my drink in college. At Players, I would not get the Holy Grail.
Oh, I would get the Holy Grail. I love it.
I know that you
big
would. She was just like
festive
this
drink.
tall with like 8 different types of liquor in it. I would get a scotch on the rocks, Doors on the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere I went. So
Okay.
that's very funny because I've now moved on to bourbon because it's less strong on my
So my
throat.
second streaking, and I think we could presumably still maybe do this on a girls' trip with the dare, but you have to have everybody promise not to use the phone.
As long as we do it the same dare that you did, I'm in.
Okay, done. We'll do it. So we were with a group of friends, couples, and whoever fell the most on the ski trip had to streak from the condo and touch the ski lift and come back. And
That was Rebecca.
I fell the most.
I fall like once every 3 years, so I'm gonna be good on this one. This is gonna be just fine for me.
Yeah, I did more definitely streaking pre-children and pre-self. Now I have 3 kids. I don't know if it's quite the same.
I'm not. I don't know, Rebecca. I've seen you looking good.
I don't know.
You
We'll
should be
see.
streaking everywhere. I, on the other hand, am not. No.
So what is our fourth
So our last
beer?
one is our dark beer. We have a dark beer. This is we call it Western Eagle. And say, well, what does that have to do with hiking? There's a mountain near called Western Eagle. It's a fire tower, so we just named it after that. A lot of hikers go by Western Eagle. And this is,
You could put this on vanilla ice cream.
This is delicious.
That's literally it's almost like a root beer float, but a beer.
It's a heavier alcohol content, almost 6%. So.
All right.
I can tell Judge Hodges likes it because it's gone from his.
He
I
chugged
like all
it.
the Lazy Hiker beer.
Yeah, this is delicious. Thank you so much for these amazing things and for the hat and the book, which I'm going to be like, hey, Adeline, when's your next book report due? Time to read this on your Market Set Go. But what do you have
Well,
to drink?
JTom is a partial owner of the Lazy Hiker, and I'm a partial owner of Callaway Blue. Have y'all ever had the Callaway Blue?
No.
I have not.
It is fantastic spring water.
I like spring water. This probably would have saved my fucking fish this morning.
It would have.
Yeah.
And so,
So
I'm going
bad.
to bring one for everyone.
I love this. Thank you.
It's good and healthy, and I'm going to take a quick detour and plug the State Bar's wellness program.
Absolutely.
They
which
do have a good wellness program.
I was the program. I was the chairperson for the task force and the start of it. And Bob Kaufman was the president of the bar at the time when we had that initiative. But everyone needs to get into wellness, and if they're a lawyer listening to the show, they need to go to the website and look at all that's available.
And quick,
with the
like
wellness
do it
program.
before they have a stroke or a heart attack ASAP.
Right.
You know, one thing that it has that I've used twice is the 6 free mental health.
6 for 6.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That is great.
I think it is what we do is very stressful. I went through a very stressful time where we may have been involved in a lawsuit. And I
stab
took
those people.
Advantage of that because I could, it was impacting my marriage, it was impacting everything. And I was like, I just need to talk to somebody that's not related to all of this.
So I'm glad you did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's huge, and attorneys are literally the last people to actually go and get help.
Well,
in North Carolina, every other year we have to get an hour of suicide prevention to keep our bar license.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And I'm licensed in South Carolina as well. You have to do every other year. It's a year of alcohol and depression, or alcohol and mental health.
What about drugs?
They don't talk about drugs.
They don't. They're like
drinking.
huge amounts of cocaine's fine, but the booze.
And the facilitator looked at me and said, "Well, have you ever thought about killing yourself?" I said, "Not me. I thought about killing other lawyers."
All the time. Yeah. Killing other people every day, all day long.
So, Judge Hodges, a question for you, since you're on the bench and you get to see lots of attorneys come up in front of you. What are 3 recommendations you have to attorneys who are taking cases in front of the Court of Appeals?
Yeah, let's switch to our attorney listeners that you could give tips to how best to successfully present their case.
Okay. Well, there's 2 ways to present. Obviously, they're all presented via a brief, so a written way, and then about a third of them get oral argument. With the briefs, I would say use the word that they're called. Be brief. You don't have to go on and on and on. Just
God, I hate reading those briefs. I can't imagine what you have to deal with because I just hate reading them.
I have to read a lot. And put your points first that are the most likely to succeed, and don't put 10 points that might work. Put 2 or 3 that will work, and focus on that. And obviously, make sure you correctly cite to the record and correctly cite to the law that supports that proposition. You would be stunned at how many people cite to the record and it's not citing to where it's supposed to be.
That's astounding.
It is astounding.
They're like, see page 4, lines 6 through 9, and you're
there.
like, that's actually not what that says.
Right.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And we will look around, but we will not do it for you. We won't read the whole transcript.
Do you think some people are just making it up?
I don't know. I mean, clearly some people were making it up. You heard about the person that did the AI brief.
The AI? I just recently heard that. That's astounding. Tell them really briefly.
There was a brief, I forget which state, it's somewhere in the Northeast, and it actually cited a case in Georgia that didn't exist.
Fake cases.
Authored by Judge Ann Barnes, who is a judge on my court.
Yeah.
But it was, I forget, just Smith versus Jones and blah, blah, blah. He gave a citation, and it was completely made up.
Wow.
That's why you don't trust AI for things like that. I mean, God, that attorney got fired for sure.
Hopefully. But other things, get transcripts. If you don't send a transcript up, we presume the judge got it right. I mean, because we've got nothing to look at to see if the judge did or didn't do it right. If you want oral argument, it needs to be articulated in a way that proves that it's something of statewide implication, or there's conflict in the law. Or one thing that I will point out to young lawyers like the 2 of you is, if you have never argued before our court before and you put that in your brief that you want to argue for professional development, I grant that 100% of the time.
Oh, I love that.
I think most of my colleagues do as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's very good to know. I was there on a case recently, and it's already been decided, so don't worry, I won't press you or anything. But the other attorney argued it. But I had just the most wonderful experience. It was such a peaceful place to be.
It is, yeah.
To try a case, and I came back, and we worked with Todd Major. I don't know if you know Todd, but he's wonderful, super smart, does a lot of appellate work. And I was like, I think I want to be an appellate lawyer. Yeah.
So Todd does strictly, for the most part, I would say 90% appellate work. He's the brains. We're very thrilled to have him with our firm. But I remember, do you know John Sweet? He was like my mentor. He's like the godfather of workers' comp in Georgia.
I never practiced workers' comp. I think the firm I was with in Albany did some, but I never did any.
Yeah. He did a lot of appellate work, though. But he passed away 2021. But he told me, because I was making an argument up to the Court of Appeals, and he was like, serve them filet, period. Always serve them filet. Cut it down. Give them very brief points that are your strongest points. Don't throw in all of the extraneous bullshit. Don't throw in, I always love it when I read opposing counsel's briefs and they you're just like reading it. It almost sounds like they're like saying they're using righteous indignation. They're like, can you believe? And I'm like, oh my God, the judges don't want to read that.
Well,
Stop
trial
doing
courts
that.
and appellate courts are very different.
Right.
Trial courts, you do the theatrics. Appellate courts, you don't.
No.
The other thing is trial courts, you have almost unlimited time. Appellate courts, you have in our court 15 minutes, in the Supreme Court 20, and you've got to manage your time. So if you come into my court and you say, Your Honor, Whitney, if you're the appellant, you say, I'd like to reserve 5 minutes for rebuttal, and you talk for 15 minutes, you've talked through your 5 minutes of rebuttal. And that happens, I would say, 80 to 90% of the time they do it, and then they look dumbfounded when they come back to stand up and we tell them their time is gone.
Do you all give the little sign like it's been 10 minutes?
We don't, but the clock is there, it's visible, and it goes from green to yellow to red.
Oh yeah.
And the clock is counting down.
Right.
So, you got to manage
it, absolutely. Yeah.
And we talked earlier, I argued an appellate case this morning at the State Board of Workers' Compensation.
Right.
You only get 5 minutes.
It's quick.
Wild.
I mean, it goes so fast.
They asked a lot of questions too.
Yeah.
They asked a bunch of questions. So I had and I was the respondent. So I for 2 minutes addressed everything, but I also had some issues on appeal. And so it was it went by so fast. And they do give you a little leeway to go over, but 5 minutes.
When I get up to do any sort of appellate arguments, I hit the timer on my phone and I'm like, and start. So I can
research your case too, and research the law and research which judges have offered things that are supportive of your position. Because if you're sitting in front of a 3-judge panel where you can say, now in your previous case, Judge Morgan, you side so-and-so, which supports us, and he's on the panel, then
it's very helpful.
You're not going to reverse yourself.
Right.
So know your audience. And we know our audience, JTom and I, because we listen to you all the time. So we brought yet one more.
Yay!
Fun,
4
fun.
roses. Small batch select. You do know your audience. That's my favorite.
That's what we call them.
Thank you. That'll help me get over the fish.
And Henry. Everybody, God bless Henry.
Please pray for Henry that when I come home, he's still alive. Oh, good. It's bad.
Maybe.
He might be alive.
So any fun facts for you now that we know that JTom's a streaker? What about you, Judge Hodges?
I've never streaked that I've been caught doing.
Do you live on a golf course? Have you gone wild on golf courses before? I mean, you were pretty tame when we golfed.
I was. I remember that was a Lawyers Club golf tournament.
We need to sign up for the new one. Eddie keeps sending out.
We do. It's the 11th.
Okay.
I thought 10th, but it
might be the 10th. Whatever that Friday is, it's the 10th. You're right.
Oh, next week. Next Friday.
Yeah.
It's
I golf
soon.
on Monday too.
I want to golf. Who are you golfing with on Monday?
Heather, and we're supposed to golf with some. We'll talk about it.
Okay. I'm like, who's golfing? God damn it! And I wasn't invited.
We'll discuss this off air.
Rude.
Golf is very different in the mountains than it is in South.
Yes.
That's why I like playing in Albany. I can play 5 or 6 different fairways
Right.
at the same time. Up there you got one where you're in the road.
100%. So I actually worked at, do you know Trillium Golf Course that's up there, like Mountaintop and all of that? So that used to be Signal Ridge when I was in high school, and I waited tables at Signal Ridge. It was a yacht club on Lake Glenville. But they made it into the most amazing, very elite, hard course. Once Trillium took it over, I was like, good grief. I mean, you've got paths that just go straight down. Yeah. Oh, you're not walking it.
Presumed rocks. You want straight or neat or rocks?
Oh, no, I'm rocks. Thank you. And Rebecca.
I'll be rocks with a splash of water.
Yeah.
I'm a little wimpy. I can use the camera.
I'm not here. Let me hand this to you.
And I had a hard workout earlier today, so I need to drink more water anyway.
I did not.
And then y'all will appreciate, I'll make you laugh. I have a new trainer that I've been working out with who we should also have on the podcast. But I have to send her pictures of myself every Sunday morning in a bathing suit.
That's the most fucked up thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm just going to throw that out there.
How did 2 Carolina girls end up in Atlanta?
So it was the closest place to Highlands, like big city to Highlands, and I wanted to be close to my mom because she had a antique shop on Main Street up there.
Does she still?
She does not. It was actually December of 2019, and she's 81 now, so whatever the math is, she was over 76, I guess. 76, 77. And I was, thank you. Cheers, everybody. I love this. Thank you so much. She was, working 7 days a week and standing on her feet and doing all those things. And I was like, Mom, what are your bills? We're not doing this anymore. Like, because she didn't have a 401k or an IRA or retirement or anything, because she was self-employed and she gave everything she had to her kids. And so I was like, we're done with this. You're not working anymore. So right before COVID hit, she closed that December. So she does no longer, which was a really good move because it would have been bad.
Sell out the business?
She sold a lot of the inventory. She did not sell the business. But so I moved to Atlanta so I could be close to her. And I love Atlanta. And then Rebecca moved.
I moved here. So I practiced law in South Carolina. I went to law school at the University of South Carolina, and I was there for 10 years. And then moved here. My husband's in commercial real estate, and we moved here for his job. I toyed with the idea of being a part-time attorney, which P.S. is more stressful than being a full-time attorney. And so I did defense work for about a year here and then switched to plaintiff's work.
And then she came and joined me, which was, I couldn't have been happier. It was like finding your long-lost soulmate.
So I'm showing my age, but I was a big fan of Carolina Beach music.
I love to shag.
Oh, I do too.
We had the Tams played at my
wedding.
wedding.
Used to do that all the time.
They did. Oh, yeah.
Cool.
They were so high maintenance, though. I had to get them 10 hotel rooms, provide them with a place for clothing change. We got married in Charleston, but P.S. there was nowhere to go, so I had to have a bus for them. It was exhausting. So it wasn't just the base price. It was the base price plus lodging plus high maintenance behavior.
Ew, no.
They were so good.
But shagging is so much fun. Like, we did all of that. Yeah.
You're a guy and you come up to a woman you've never met before and say, would you like to shag?
Would you like to shag? You might get hauled off and clocked at that point.
London.
Yeah, I was like, especially if she's English, you're gonna get clocked for sure.
Yeah, limit that to the Carolinas for sure.
So tell me really briefly about the courses that you teach, because we are starting to run out of time, but I want to hear the courses that you teach at Western and how you feel that's, because I don't feel like they really had a lot of those courses when I was growing up.
So the Criminal Justice Department is the largest department at Western. We've got over 700 students.
Yes.
I teach 3 classes of 40 kids, so I have about 120 students every semester. And 5 to 10 of my students every year end up in law school all over the South. Georgia, Carolina. I've got one at Wake Forest now. It's the first one. Chapel Hill. And ethics is what I enjoy teaching the most, because these are Appalachian kids. Mm-hmm. And we approach subjects that they've never even thought about, like the civil rights. I mean, Ken and I grew up in Albany, where there was a big civil rights movement before MLK went over to Selma. And I show them a video called The Day the 60s Died, about the shootings at Kent State and Kansas State. And then to finish it off, the students have to read Just Mercy by Ryan Stevenson, which is a phenomenal book. And Stevenson was a defense attorney in Atlanta before going over to Alabama. And it's a good way to make them, I said, we're not here to judge, but let's use some critical thinking skills, which and this is what's so frustrating, is that our kids today get all their news from TikTok or Facebook. And so, thank you, this Supreme Court, thank you, Trump, with the trials that are going on. I start each class with 10 or 15 minutes of just going over the news, because there's something ethical to talk about in every day.
All the time.
All the time. And then the students who really want to get into law take the criminal procedure and criminal law courses. Most of our students end up in some form or fashion in the criminal justice field. It's good to work with. And to be honest with you, some of the kids, we just had evaluations yesterday, and I was reading the evaluations last night, and one of my students, and they're anonymous, said, and they call me Professor JTom. Nobody knows my last name. I mean, y'all don't even know my last name.
Well, I only know it because of your book.
So
it's Morgan. Yeah. Just in case anyone wanted to know, it's Morgan.
Professor JTom. I really like Professor JTom because he looks and sounds just like my grandpappy.
Oh, I love that. No, that's precious.
But that was definitely meant in a respectful way.
Yeah, that is. But I mean, I couldn't be more thankful that you're there kind of helping to introduce and guide the youth. So when I was in high school at Highlands with my 31 kids in my class, all the AP classes and stuff that I would take, or college credit classes, I would do through Southwestern Community College, which is down in that neck of the woods. And I took criminal justice in high school from Southwestern. And I would drive down there every day to Silva, or maybe 3 days a week from Highlands. It was I was a very fast driver back then. I had no care for.
She still is.
All right, I am still a fast driver. You're not wrong. But hysterical story is the professor, we're there for the first day, and he goes, Sarah Stottlemyre. And I was like, yep, that's my name. And he goes, is your dad Steven Stottlemyre? And I go, yeah, that's my dad. He goes, ask him how he knows me, right? So this was the former police chief up in Highlands. And so he was teaching criminal justice at Southwestern. And so I called my dad and I was like, Dad, how do you know my criminal justice professor? And he goes, ooh, he's your professor? And I go, yeah, Dad, he's my professor. So my dad was a young hotshot lawyer that moved up to Highlands from Sarasota. And he was driving his Porsche through town, after drinking at the Helen's Barn, as one did back in the 70s. And my dad got pulled over, and the cops were like, we want you to blow. My dad, being an attorney, is like, not going to happen. You're going to have to, I'm going to refuse. You're going to bring me down to Franklin, which is a 30-minute drive. And he was like, and I might request a blood test. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm not blowing. And so they bring him to the police chief's house, who's my professor. My dad proceeds to pull down his pants and piss on his lawn. It just continued to get better for me. And then, well, needless to say, and the professor just died laughing. I walked in, I was like, fuck, this just apparently didn't go well. You cannot hold my irresponsible father's behavior over my head. I ended up getting an A+, obviously, in the class, and so it ended up being fine. But when my dad told me that, I just walked into class the next day and I go, oh, yeah. So I talked to my dad. I'm going to go ahead and apologize for that because I don't think anybody has yet. So sorry about that. He was like, it's fine. You're good. But it was, I was only in the mountains would something like that happen.
I'll finish out with this one. We have a body farm at Western Carolina. There are only 3 in the country. It's a big, because we have a big forensics science department. Thanks to shows like CSI, every kid now wants to be an investigator to solve the crime of the century. And what they do, they take the bodies out, lay them out, and watch them decompose. And so I signed up for it. I said, I love the mountains. I've streaked through a couple campuses. So,
I love nude bodies everywhere, all the time.
Everywhere. And so I signed up for last semester, and I told one of my male students, and he said, Professor JTom, do you really want to do that? I said, yeah. He said, what's the problem? He said, with the male corpses, it's the eyes and the penis that go first. And I said, in death is in life. Only 21 he did.
You're not wrong. That's really funny. That's hysterical.
Amazing.
I couldn't love having both of you on the show today. Thank you so much. I mean, you guys have been absolutely fantastic. I know Judge Hodges, you and I have been talking about it. I've been trying to get you on the show for a while now.
Well, since I don't have to have another contested election, I thought it was now appropriate.
Now it would be appropriate. Yeah, I promised we would not discuss anything that was, my normal out of bounds comments and things. So,
I'm very well behaved.
Yeah.
In Sarah's language.
Look at me. Yeah. God, I should get a medal of some sort. But I just wanted to thank you both for coming. Thank you so much for bringing us these delicious beers from the Lazy Hiker.
Now, can I get it in Hickory? Because my parents live there.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. I'll be in Hickory in a few weeks. Okay.
And you can get Callaway Blue in any Publix.
That's what
you know what? It would have saved my fish. I should have had Donovan get that today. It was a tragic day. But thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. This has been lovely and very eye-opening and great advice for our listeners. So thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you both.
Cheers, and we will see you next time on Lawyers and Libations. If we survive another week in Atlanta, good grief.
I'm going to Lawrenceville, so.
Okay, good luck with that. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.